Cuba's communist revolution triumphed on January 1st, 1959, when Fidel Castro's 26th of July movement ousted dictator Fulgencio Batista. What began as a broad anti-corruption crusade swiftly morphed into a one-party Marxist state. By 1961, after repelling the US-backed Bay of Pigs invasion, Castro declared the revolution socialist, nationalizing US-owned sugar plantations, oil refineries, and banks, prompting President Kennedy's full trade embargo, codified in 1962 and intensified by the 1996 Helms-Burton Act. The Cuban Communist Party, PCC, founded in 1965, became the sole legal political entity, enshrined in the 1976 Constitution as the leading force of society and the state. Dissent was criminalized under laws against enemy propaganda, enforced by state security and committees for the defense of the revolution, CDRs, neighborhood watch groups monitoring counter-revolutionaries. Fidel's iron grip lasted nearly 50 years, blending charisma with repression. Achievements like 99.8% literacy by 1961 and a doctor-to-patient ratio rivaling developed nations masked darker realities. Over 15,000 political executions or deaths in custody since 1959, per human rights groups. The 2003 Black Spring jailed 75 dissidents, poets, journalists, opposition figures, in trials lasting minutes, many serving 20-year terms in vermin-infested cells. Raul Castro's 2008 succession brought timid reforms, allowing private paladares, restaurants, and cell phone ownership, yet the PCC Politburo retained veto power. Miguel Díaz-Canel, installed as president in 2018, marks the first non-Castro era, but generals controlled 60% of the economy via Gaesa conglomerate, from hotels to imports. Economically, central planning bred chronic inefficiency from day one. Soviet subsidies peaked at $6 billion yearly in the 1980s, bartering sugar for oil and machinery. The USSR's 1991 dissolution triggered the special period. GDP cratered 35% by 1993, calorie intake fell to 1,800 daily, and 35,000 balseros fled on rafts during the 1994 crisis. Oxen plowed fields as fuel vanished. Blackouts lasted 18 hours daily. Raul Castro's 2008 guidelines permitted 600 self-employment categories and foreign joint ventures in biotech and nickel. Yet state farms produced just 20% of food needs, forcing $2 billion annual imports for basics. Venezuela's oil flooded in post-2000s, but Caracas's implosion slashed aid 80% by 2019. The 2020s deepened the abyss. COVID gutted tourism, down 75% in 2020, while U.S. Trump-era sanctions tightened remittances. Inflation hit 500% by 2021. The peso devalued 2,400% since 2020. Ration libretas delivered 7 pounds rise monthly per person amid empty shelves. 2021's July 11th protests, largest since 1959, saw 1,300 arrested chanting Libertad, met with water cannons and prison raids. Hurricane Ian 2022 and nationwide blackouts exacerbated woes. 20-hour outages paralyzed factories, spoiled harvests. By 2025, CEPAL forecasts minus 1.5% GDP contraction after 2024's minus 1.1%, with experts eyeing 13% cumulative shrink since 2020. Poverty tops 88%, and tourism lags 25% below targets. Remittances, 40% of GDP, prop up families via Miami exiles, underscoring regime failure. Díaz-Canel's economy of war rhetoric blames the blockade, $5 billion cost yearly, for Havana, evading structural rot, hypercentralization, corruption, no property rights. Cuba clings to communism via repression, but scarcity arose revolutionary zeal, birthing quiet exodus and simmering revolt. If you want to delve deeper into Cuba's unraveling, follow the channel. As Cuba moves through the mid-2020s, the island faces what experts call its most profound crisis since independence. The cumulative effect of pandemic shutdowns, global inflation, and the tightening of U.S. sanctions has triggered a structural collapse that the government seems powerless to reverse. Official data reveals a grim reality. Between 2019 and 2024, the economy contracted by over 10%, with a further 1.1% decline in 2024, and forecasts of a recession continuing through 2025. Agriculture and livestock production plummeted by 53% in 5 years, forcing the country to import nearly 100% of its subsidized food basket, which itself has shrunk to meager rations of rice and scant protein. The energy sector symbolizes this decay. Aging Soviet-era power plants, starved of maintenance and fuel, fail daily, causing blackouts that can last up to 20 hours in rural provinces. These outages paralyze what remains of industry and drive public desperation. In response, the government has declared a war economy, a rhetorical pivot to justify harsh austerity measures like slashing subsidies and raising fuel prices by 500% in 2024. Yet, these moves only fueled hyperinflation. Unofficial rates exceed 700% for some goods, decimating the purchasing power of state salaries and pensions. A doctor earns the equivalent of $15 a month, while a carton of eggs can cost half that amount on the black market. Socially, the contract between the revolution and the people has fractured. The promised pillars of health and education are crumbling. Hospitals lack basic antibiotics and sutures, while schools face teacher shortages as professionals flee abroad. This despair has sparked the largest migration wave in Cuban history. Over 1 million Cubans, nearly 10% of the population, have left since 2020, draining the island of its youth and workforce. Those who remain rely heavily on remittances, which now constitute a lifeline for 40% of families, effectively privatizing social welfare through exile networks. Politically, the regime has doubled down on control. President Miguel Díaz-Canel and the military elite in Gaesa control the lucrative tourism and import sectors, insulating themselves from the worst shortages while blaming the U.S. blockade for all ills. Havana estimates U.S. sanctions cost the island nearly $5 billion annually, a narrative used to deflect from internal mismanagement and corruption. However, dissent is simmering. The July 2021 protests broke the barrier of fear, and sporadic demonstrations over power cuts continue to erupt, met with swift repression and internet blackouts. The continuity promised by the post-Castro leadership now looks like stagnation, with no clear path to recovery. Looking ahead, Cuba stands at a precipice. With Venezuela's aid evaporated, and allies like Russia and China offering loans rather than handouts, the rentier model is dead. The private sector, MIPYMES, has expanded to fill gaps in food and retail, creating a new class divide between those with dollars and those without. Unless deep market reforms are implemented, far beyond current half measures, the island risks becoming a failed state, where the only booming industry is the export of its own people. The revolution's legacy, once defined by defiance, is now defined by survival. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Cuba's history and current crisis. If you found this analysis insightful, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to catch our next series on global geopolitics.